This TikToker made a series of videos talking about their thoughts about 3D printed stuff at maker events, and it has made a lot of people angry. So, this is the TikToker in question, and they go by the TikTok handle Olivia Stober Studios, if I'm reading that correctly. They are an artist themselves, and here are examples of their artwork so you can kind of just get a gauge of the medium they work in.
I need to say something mean. You should not be allowed to make 3D printed crap junk and pass it off as handmade stuff and sell it at a maker's market. It's fucked. I'm not talking about people who innovate something that they happen to 3D print. I'm talking about people who go online, find a pattern for some trinket, and then 3D print a bunch of them and sell them at a stand as though they've like handmade these things. I think it's an insult to people who actually do make things and craft things by hand. I do a bunch of makers markets. I've been in the market scene for a couple of years now. This year, I've just noticed so many people selling the same, and it's the same shit. And that's why it makes me raise an eyebrow, because I'm like, you didn't make this up. You downloaded this free pattern from Google, or I don't know if you paid for it. I don't care. You set your 3D printer to make something. You didn't make it. And also, you're just adding plastic stuff that's going to go into the landfill. When you come to my booth at a market and you buy a print, not only did I draw the design, I carved it out of linoleum, I inked it, I pressed the print by hand. And that's what you're getting from me. If you buy a pair of earrings from me, I have drawn them by hand, I have coated them in resin with my own two hands, put them all together, assembled them by myself. And so when people are selling little pieces of 3D printed junk for $5, it totally ruins the vibe for actual makers and artisans, because we can't afford to charge $5 for our stuff because we actually make our stuff. People want to sell that shit on Etsy, Amazon, whatever, go for it. You should not be allowed to sell that stuff at a maker's market. And you should not be able to call yourself a maker if what you make is 3D printed junk. Sorry, I said it, and I'll say it again.
So that was the video, and here's what some people in the comment section have to say. Colette Bernard, who is also an artist, writes, 3D printing was always supposed to be a rapid prototyping tool, not necessarily a medium in of itself. It's so much cooler to see creatives use it as a launch pad for the next step of manufacturing. And people like Very Berry Blast says, seeing the same unsanded dragon at cons, markets, and stands. Users has tagged the resin people. And people were curious as to what trinkets Olivia was referring to, so Olivia made a follow-up video.
I'm talking about stuff like this. A lot of you guys know exactly what I was talking about, but in case you need a visual, I'm talking about stuff like this. There's another example. The octopus is one of the greatest hits. I see it everywhere. Then a lot of people were also mentioning the slug, another epidemic in the 3D printing community.
If I had a penny for every single time I've seen one of these slugs, either in a MakerCon IRL or in a TikTok video, I'd probably be a millionaire.
I think it's unoriginal. I think it lacks creativity. I think it lacks any kind of craftsmanship. Most of the time, like people are mentioning in the comments, people don't even sand the edges on these things, so they do just look cheap and ugly. If you want to sell these off of a folding table by the pier or whatever, like, that's none of my business. I'm talking about people selling this stuff being in like curated makers markets, craft markets, small business markets. You picking up what I'm putting down?
And then Olivia made a third video doubling down on their take. And this was actually the first video that I personally got on my For You page before I started diving into this.
So I've struck a nerve with my 3D printing video. Honestly, yeah, I should have known that was going to reach the people who love 3D printer. I was not saying that to be derogatory to all of the 3D printers in the whole world. I know 3D printers, I know of 3D printers, I follow some 3D printing artists who 3D print really cool, innovative stuff that they've conceptualized and created. They did the file themselves. But what I do know and what I am gonna double down on and what I am going to stand 10 toes down when I say it again is that if you are making those fucking dragons, the slugs, the Dwayne The Rock Johnson Rocktopus, I think that you don't belong in a maker's market. I didn't say you can't exist and I never said you couldn't do it. I'm just saying that not everything is for you. Like, not everyone can be in every space. And I don't think that if the only thing you make is segmented 3D printed dragons in a million different colors, I don't think you should be allowed at the handcrafted maker's market. Is that so crazy? And honestly, my fucking bad that I didn't foresee you guys going back into my videos and finding stuff that I made and trying to shit on it. Saying you think this is so much better than 3D printed stuff. Yeah, unfortunately, I do. I make that stuff because I like it. And so I do think that it is better than 3D printed dragons. that I could buy on Temu. But what's killing me is that there's this guy, I don't know his name. He's been tagging me, stitching me in videos all day. He found my sardine earrings that I make and sell very well. Those are very good sellers. I can barely keep up with the demand because of the fact that I do make them by hand. But this guy found my earrings. He uploaded it to like Makerverse or whatever the hell it's called. I don't know, like a file so people can 3D print my earrings, which I think he thinks is a gotcha, but can I show you what they look like? Yeah, so those look like shit. I don't know why you'd think that this is in any way an alternative for this. You don't have to like these. You don't have to want to buy them. You can think they're stupid, but they look so much better than whatever garbage you just made. I'm doubling down. I am not going to let you tell me that the 3D printed fish looks better than this.
How 3D printing works, essentially, you need to get a file that you can then upload into your 3D printer, and then it will print out whatever your file was designed. Many 3D printers design the file themselves. I have 3D printed stuff. I think when I was in high school, I 3D printed a thrush lantern and hook necklace, and I thought that was pretty cool. I modeled it myself, and I painted it myself with glow-in-the-dark paint so that it could glow in the dark like thrush. Anyways, I thought it was really cool. I'll stick a picture here if I find a photo of it. But there's other things that you can do as well. There are shops or, communities online where you can get pre-made files. Here's one that I just found. It's called 3d.com, not sponsored. I literally just one Google away, and you can filter for free files. And oh, look, here we have the segmented octopuses. We have articulated lizards. We go down here. We have more articulated stuff. The dragons. Oh, the dragons. Wing phone stands. There's tons of people who have designed really, really creative things. Then they've uploaded the files generously for free so that you can print it out using your 3D printer if you have one. And literally all it takes is downloading this down onto a USB and then sticking it into a 3D printer. I don't know if the text changed because the last time I used it, I was in high school. My dad has a 3D printer. I haven't played around with it yet. Basically, you get the file, you upload it into your printer, you hit print, and it will print it. Sometimes it takes a couple hours depending on how complex what your printing is. And then it comes out printed out on one sheet. Okay, you'll have a sheet and then all the pieces will be on there, and then you pry it off the sheet, and then there'll be all these like rough edges that stick up, and then you ideally will sand down the edges so it's all nice and smooth. So in the video, Olivia was saying that, sometimes, these sellers don't even sand the edges and they'll just sell it as is. A lot of 3D printers got mad. They were not really happy about Olivia's post. So here we just have a 3D printer. Their handle is Brady Meets World. Again, by the way, guys, don't send hate to any of the creators involved. Like, they're just stating their opinions on the internet, which we are all allowed to do. And I think Brady was also very, very kind in his video.
I have been getting harassment, hate, threats from a certain subset of the 3D printing.
Oh, it looks like somebody's playing the professional victim again and professionally outraged, even though you picked a fight with a bunch of people that you probably shouldn't have picked a fight with. Now, one thing that I really want to talk about is, number one, if you're receiving any kind of physical threats, I need you to let me know, and you also need to let the police know, because here's the thing, that is not okay in any situation. Anybody that's following me, I know that you guys probably haven't, but if you have physically threatened this young lady, please absolutely cease and desist that, and you should be held accountable. And if I find out, I'll make sure that I help her hold you accountable. But getting back to the story here, Olivia, unfortunately you fucked around and found out, right? Like, you fucked around and found out. You picked a fight with a big community of people that would love and support you doing art at maker fairs. They keep to themselves, they keep in their own lane, but you picked a fight, and now you're getting exactly what you sought out to get in the first place. You're getting tons of views, which is awesome, right? Hopefully you're making some money on that. Hopefully you're on the creator awards space. Hopefully you're making money and you're growing your account. But at the same time, here's the thing, that people are really shitty when you pick a fight with a big community like this. And the 3D printing community is very tight. Now here's the thing. When it comes to IP infringement, I'm not a lawyer. I'm not giving legal advice. But what I will tell you, as long as they're not profiting off of it, there really isn't much you can do.
Well, I will also say, like, Brady will then go on in this video to talk about IP infringement. I would just say I totally get his sentiment, which is why I played his video, to show you guys like a kind person in the 3D community talking about the situation on the other side. But the people that Olivia are referring to, and I have witnessed firsthand as somebody who attends cons, maker events, etc., they do sell it for profit at these maker fields and cons and stuff like that. And that was what Olivia was referring to, not people who print little slinky slugs to go play with in their own home. That's a whole separate thing. You have a 3D printer as long as you acquire your files legally and with the consent of the person who made the file. So whether they made it publicly available or whether you designed it or your friend designed it and you printed it, as long as you've acquired it in a rightful way and you're doing it at home, that is totally fine.
That goes kind of across the board. Great example of this is Disney. When families print off Disney shirts and they go to Disney, there's IP infringement all over that, right? But they're not profiting off of it. Disney could, I guess, probably like ban the shirts from being in their parks, but they're not going to do that, right? But realistically, they can't go after IP infringement because people have made it for themselves and they're not profiting off of it. Now, the people that are selling those STL, what is it in cricket world, SVGs, people are selling those SVGs, now they could get in trouble for IP infringements, or like great example, like a shirt that says like hot to go on it, wink, wink, right? That's a trademarked phrase, especially when you're referring to it in that phrase and you're selling t-shirts off it and you're profiting off of that IP infringement, right? The difference though is it's such small potatoes that realistically, nobody's going to go after anybody for that. There was just a case recently where a lady did tumblers, and there was a famous country star that company found out and knocked her for IP infringement. And of course, the country star came back and said, no, this is small potatoes. It's a maker faire. We're not going to do anything, and actually licensed all their stuff for her to be able to do tumblers. Like I said, it's just not worth a company to do that. But here's the thing, though. Again, I want to get back to the fact that if you're being physically threatened or you're being threatened in a harmful manner, that's not okay, and that shouldn't be stood for. I did a video, and here's the other thing too. This whole man thing, again, this is like playing the professional victim, like I was talking about before, is so shitty because I know that there are men doing videos, but I also know that there are women doing videos as well. And you said that, but you're making this like a political thing, and it's not. You picked a fight with a 3D printing community, and you know they shot back, unfortunately, right? And you're kind of dealing with that. I just don't understand how hard it would be for you to apologize and say, you know what, hey, I'm sorry, I picked a fight, I called your guys' work, your craftsmanship crap. I shouldn't have called it crap. I'm just maybe tired of seeing it in maker spaces as much as I do. I would like to see some innovation opposed to, you know, just dragons or something like that. But no, you just were shitty straight out of the gate, and you picked a fight, and now you're getting what you get, right? And so anyways, I hope that you have the day you deserve. And again, I mean nothing. I'm not mad at you. I follow you. I like your content, but you know, trust me, when I go through your content, it definitely is professional victimhood, right? It's professional outrage, and I get it because that's what sells on social media. Again, I hope the best for you. I'm sorry that it's gotten this bad and out of whack, but at the same time, kind of reaping what you sow here. Anyway.
So yeah, I just wanted to show that video so we could get somebody else's side from the 3D printer side. I do think that Brady might have lost the plot a little bit in the second half of the video because I feel like the second half did not really, the middle chunk of his video didn't really address anything, in my opinion, that Olivia had said. But a lot of people on the 3D printer side were upset because essentially TLDR, Olivia called their craft shit. I would break this down into a couple of points. One, Olivia was stating that it is essentially crap. Now, in terms of referring to artwork as crap, maybe I wouldn't go as far to say that, right? People still have to put time and effort. But if you do look at it from an objective standpoint of the amount of creativity and difficulty it takes to get a free file off the internet and print it out using a 3D printer, assuming you're not sanding it even, which is like the bare minimum, that's essentially the equivalent in the, you know, illustrating world, the 2D art world, of ripping a free and licensed image off online that you then print out using a printer onto sticker paper and you cut it out. It is the same level of creativity and effort. You still had to do something, but is it the most innovative and creative thing that we've ever seen out here? The answer is no. So I do agree with Olivia in that sentiment that it is on paper easy to make this sort of work. It's essentially lower effort and doesn't require as much creativity. Are we calling it crap out here? I again wouldn't call like people's work crap, right? There's just your taste and other people's taste, and maybe 3D printed segmented dragons aren't your cup of tea. But that's okay. There's other people who like that stuff. Like, a reason as to why a lot of people were upset is the way Olivia phrased her video. One, she does come off very like kind of guns blazing aggressive in her video. Like, I'm reading it for the points that she's making. The tonality does come off a little strong, but also sometimes I get tired of people kind of like tone policing on the internet with like, you said it this way. So like, yeah. The way she phrased the video, I can see why people would get triggered and upset is because she was like, your stuff is bad. I put a lot of time and effort into my work. So if you buy my stuff, then like you would get time and effort and like thought and care. But if you buy their stuff, it would suck. So by wording it in that way, it pits it a lot of like, I am better than you. I know that was not her intention. I'm pretty sure her intention was, hey, this stuff is easy to make. And if you buy from an artist who has handcrafted their work, then you would get a lot more care and thought into it. But by wording it, oh, me, like my stuff is better, then it turns the argument instead of people focusing on, oh, it is really easy to get a 3D printed dragon file and print it down. My dad can do it with his 3D printer. It turns the argument from something of like your original point into people will then feel like you are feeling like you're better than them. And that will turn into a whole different narrative. And then the final thing is her statement that, oh, they do not belong in maker spaces. Do I think, again, that it's very easy to make something like that? I do. I've 3D printed stuff in my life, and I also know how to 3D model. So again, I'm not talking about the people who make their own files, or when you take a free file, you like modify in some way to make it yours. You put like you paint it or something, you add rhinestones to it. There is that like hand touch to it that is more than just printing something, which is essentially what it is. But to then state does not belong in a space, that is also where you're going to make a lot of people upset. There is again a nuance in people wanting to belong in spaces that you may think they don't belong in. But at the end of the day, a maker fair is a maker fair. It's up to the people hosting the fair to decide who is allowed and who isn't allowed. Some maker fairs have a much more strict requirement than other maker fairs, and that is up to the discretion of the party running it. So I would say that a statement like they don't belong at all is definitely really harsh. If it's not your cup of tea, you can always just walk by, like mind your own business. It is what it is. It's not harming people that there's a large amount of people selling segmented slugs and dragons or octopi, and it's not harming you just to kind of walk by their booths. You know that it is easy to make. And so I just think overall that the absolute amount of like hate and vitriol Olivia received for making her series of videos is unwarranted, right? It's a lot of hate and stuff like that for somebody who's stating relatively factual things. Her point being, it's not hard to make those things. It's really not. It's just printing something. Olivia was not referring to people who hand model their items that they later 3D print, or people who have added modifications on it, I believe, right? I don't view that way either, right? As somebody who can 3D model and has 3D printed stuff, the people who make really sick 3D printed cosplay props, masks. I've bought people's cosplay props before, like, little headset attachments that they've designed themselves, because I really respect the creativity that goes behind it. Again, if you do take a free file and print it down, I myself don't purchase those types of things because it's just not my cup of tea. But we live, we move on, etc. So I'm just curious about your thoughts on this whole scenario, right? Do you agree with Olivia? Do you agree with the 3D printer side? And they're upset about Olivia and her series of videos? I'd love to hear it in the comment section down below. And again, let's please all be very respectful in the comment section, because sending hate to people is definitely not cool whatsoever. So again, if you like this video, I appreciate it if you'd like to subscribe. I also have an Etsy shop in which I sell digital goods, assets, little emotes and stuff like that for your Twitch stream. I also have a coffee, which I have some free emotes on there. I just made a set of hot cocoa drinking kitties if you want those emotes. And I also stream on Twitch 3 days a week, Mondays, Wednesdays, Saturdays, 6 p.m. PST. So I hope to catch you guys there or in another one of my videos. Bye-bye.